To all my peeps out there, this is Social D Theater with Hassan El-Amin and friends. And I am fortunate enough to have a dear friend of mine, Mr. Kenny Leon, here today. He's a Tony Award-winning Broadway film, television actor, and all that good stuff. So welcome, brother, to Social D Theater.
It's good to be here with you.
Thank you, brother.
Let's make beautiful moments of these downtown.
Exactly, man. So first of all, how's the family? Everybody good?
Everybody's good. Everybody's healthy. We isolating in two homes, and because my wife has asthma, so we're trying to keep that separate. So, but we good, man. I'm just working on a routine every day. So I wake up for the first hour and I read the Bible and I get spiritual and I try to learn something I didn't know. And then I take a walk. Then I come back, eat breakfast. Then I read a script. It could be a future project or an old project. And then I come and do an hour and a half on the Peloton bike. And then I go in my film room next door and I study old films. And, so I have a routine, and that's really been very helpful. This downtime has been helpful.
So you do this every day?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Nice, man. So, brother, when this thing hit, where were you at? When this whole coronavirus shutdown thing, where were you and what were you working on?
I was directing a soldier's play on Broadway with Blair Underwood and David Allen Greer.
Yeah.
And we actually had a very successful run. We had 3 more performances. So we were supposed to close on March 15th.
Yeah.
And they shut us down on March 13th. So we weren't able to get it copied for Lincoln Center Library. So it is on tape and that production. And then the next day I came back to Atlanta and been isolated in Atlanta ever since,
And I gotta let you know, I saw that production. Peggy and I went and saw that production, man. I was blown away, brother. I was blown away. I love the play, but the way that you directed, your direction, the vision, some of the artistic things you did, the story, it was powerful, man. It was powerful.
And that means a lot, man. I love that.
A home run.
Hey, man, Charles Fuller he's one of our giants, and I always think that as especially African American artists, sometimes we don't do our job fully, which means that I think we should honor those writers and directors who've been who've laid the work before us, but find a way to make it relevant to the audiences who are living today, not to present museum pieces. And so I don't think we visit James Baldwin and Toni Morrison and Leslie Lee, and we don't visit those artists enough. Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, and Charles Fuller wrote a brilliant play 40 years ago about race in America 40 years before that. And here we are doing it 40 years after he did it. So I thought we had to do it in a way that reminded people it's a living, breathing piece of art. And so I thought we were able to merge 1944 and run it right into 2020.
See, that's interesting, man, because I've been trying to find pieces to read with other African-American artists on Zoom and everything. And sometimes some of the content of those writers that are back in there, they deal with a lot of issues of race. They deal with a lot of issues, racism, and sometimes the N-word is used a lot. And sometimes I'm just looking for pieces that are more relevant to just, communicating as a human being to human being. So sometimes I encounter some difficulty, but then I understand what the topic is about. When you talk about these great writers, sometimes the topic at hand, be it racism, do you encounter difficulty, even though you say we should honor them, difficulty in what the topic subject matter that they're speaking on?
Yes, that's the challenge. I mean, a lot of our work is didactic because we were writing specifically about the time we're living in. Yeah. And as Blacks, we use our plays as political tools. So they were really more specific and not as universal as some of the other work.
Yeah.
But I think it's incumbent upon us to really to analyze what the challenge is. You know, like right now I'm reading a wonderful play I loved by Melvin Van Peebles. It's called Ain't Supposed to Die a Natural Death.
Yeah.
And for years I've wanted to present that work, but it's some things about it that feel it's of its time. But every day, and especially now, I'm looking at it now. Well, what if I got Branford Marsalis to work on it with me? What if I got some new jazz put on it, some today's jazz put on it? What if I call Melvin Van Peebles' son Mario and talk to him about maybe some of these pieces to take out, or maybe, and then sometimes as directors, we have to figure out ways to conceptualize it. So we don't have to change it. The things that may be disturbing to us, we may find a way to present it in a dreamlike way, or in a surreal way, or in a musical way. So you de-emphasize, the nature of what it did 30 or 40 years before that. So I think that we have to work harder and using more of our talent to express what we do, and don't always approach our work as naturalism. It doesn't always have to be presented in a natural way, even though that's the way it was originally written. So more and more, I'm thinking about more ways to integrate music, more ways to integrate symbols. Like I did Much Ado About Nothing at the park. First time it was an all-Black production in the park, in Central Park in New York. But I placed it in the future. And all Shakespeare asks is like, he says, men are coming from war. So as a director, I have to say, okay, what war are they coming from? So I couldn't think of a war in the past that would serve it. I was like, what about a war in the future, right before the 2020 election? Yeah. And and it says these people they're wealthy people. So, I live in Atlanta. Okay, and there's some wealthy people in Atlanta. They happen to be Black. And then Shakespeare talks about a place called Aragon, Italy. And I'm like, Aragon? There's a place called Aragon, Georgia, like 20 minutes from me. So that's how I said Shakespeare's play, which was written in, I think, 1585 or something. You know, play is 500 years old. Right. So how does that maintain its relevance? So you get all in there, you dig it, and you shape it, and next thing you know, you have Much Ado About Nothing on a house in Georgia with a sign in the front that says Stacey Abrams 2020. You know, and then you add music to it, because only thing that separates people, I think, is our traditions, okay, our culture. Yeah. So like I have many Jewish friends, and I love the tradition of the Jewish faith, right? And I'm like, wow. So that's what separates Black from Jewish, like the things they do. What are the things that we do that separate us as people? And so then I thought, okay, well, if there's a wedding in the play, if there's a birth in the play, if there's a circumcision in the play, if there's someone has a tradition of doing hair on Sunday, all of our traditions, that's what you focus on. Yeah. So you focus on turning those around. So I think there are many ways that we can visit those plays that we think are too old, and just de-emphasize those things that sort of get on our nerves, or like James Baldwin, Blues for Mr. Charlie. It's kind of too long. It kind of goes on. It's kind of preachy. So you have to figure out a way. Is there a way I can contact the estate to cut some of this? Is there a way that I can stylistically speed up that text and then slow this down? Is there a way I can uplift that by putting that on a bed of music? Is there a way that I can put people in blackface to change the concept of that? I'm looking at a play I'm doing for Broadway next year. I mean, who knows when I'm doing it, but a play I'm trying to develop, looking again at the tap dance kid, right? And there's a lot of things about tap dance kids I like a lot of the music, a lot of the traditions of where tap dance came from. But then there's a lot of things about the book that don't quite work right now. So I have to look at that and say, what is this writer trying to say? He's trying to say, like, in America, it's hard sometimes to be a Black man when you're trying to be the best American. So then conceptually, I just go back in that piece and just shape it all. Like, so maybe I start to play with the black man with a mask on. And then he takes the mask off, and the play is an evolution about a guy trying to find himself through his history of tap dance. I don't know, this is just some examples, right. But I think there's a lot of brilliant work and a lot of brilliant artists that came before us, you know, and I read about, you know, I got some stuff, I'm reading Lorraine Hansberry, I'm reading James Baldwin. All those people were like friends of each other. They were intellectuals. And so then I got people like this, like, you know, like Stacey Abrams and who I got? Michelle Obama. You know, it's like as artists, we got to keep putting stuff in our head. We got to keep working. And I think this downtime has given us some time to really focus on what our roles can be and how we can get better at it. And this downtime is making me, you know, research more. Now I got more. You got time to research. You got time to read. You got time to look at other directors' work, other actors' work. You got time to go in the film room and look at all the actors that you haven't worked with in a long time. You got time to look at Hassan El-Amin and say, like, what do we need to do next? You know. So yeah, man.
Let me ask you this, brother. Just continue with that thought. Because there are a lot of African American writers, past wise, maybe didn't get their just due, do you feel a responsibility to really research that work and make it relevant today, or are you just looking for good plays to do?
I think I have a responsibility. I want to be a good director and work on all kind of work, but I think I have a responsibility to shepherd the work of those who came before us and push it further. Like I had, you know, when I did A Raisin in the Sun on Broadway with, not the one with Denzel, but the one with P. Diddy. When I did that, I met with Ruby Dee and Asa Davis, and they would come to all my previews and give me notes on all my shows, because I reached out to them before I started the project. I reached out to Lloyd Richards, and I said, hey, man, I'm a continuation of what you guys did. I'm not trying to do anything to bury what you did. And in 1959, they had a hard time getting that play to Broadway.
Exactly.
And then Lloyd didn't even get the opportunity to direct it for the film. You know what I mean? So right. The fact that I ended up directing the film of it for ABC, I'm thinking I'm carrying on in the tradition of trying to get a black director behind camera. So there are some things that sacrifices that I've been spending time with Harry Belafonte, who was like, he's just one of my heroes, you know, and I realized all the sacrifices that he made, and how can I sit up in his apartment and talk to him or listen to him tell stories and not be reminded of my responsibility to him, my responsibility to Sidney Poitier, Ruby Dee, Asa Davis. You know, I have a responsibility to them because they were fighting the political fight while they were trying to be artists. And some of us have forgotten that we are fighting, that we have a political fight to fight as well. And, you know, if we don't do something, I feel in the next 4 years, we're going to be in a tough place. So I think as artists, we have a lot to say come November. And if you are, if you're not a better artist after the pandemic, then I don't know what to say for you.
Yeah.
Because you can't be the same person on the other side of this.
No, I agree with you completely. Let me ask you this then, because I read something where they were talking about you as a Broadway director, and some critic or something said one of the preeminent African-American directors on Broadway. How did you feel when they make that kind of comment, commenting on the fact that you are African-American as opposed to just a great director on Broadway?
I think sometimes we have to remember what fight we're fighting.
Okay.
I think that at one point in my life, I was like, oh no, I do Tennessee Williams, I do Shakespeare. I'm just a director. I don't fight those fights anymore. Cool. When I did Tupac's Holler If You Hear Me on Broadway, and it ran for about maybe 2 months. It didn't run long. This was before Hamilton.
Yeah.
And it was a great production. And I remember walking down the street in New York one night, and Cornell West and Harold Belafonte were getting out of a taxi, and they were like, "Brother Leon, how you doing?" I said, "I'm good, man." I said, "I'm kind of down because, you know, the Tupac musical is gonna close soon, and I'm disappointed." And they looked at me like, "What are you talking about? You're forgetting something. You have to remember you're presenting Afrocentric work on a Eurocentric stage."
Mm.
And since that day in 2014, I'm like, wow, I don't got a little big for my pants, as my mama would say. It's like, no, that's what you're doing. And so part of the responsibility is, yeah, that's what I'm doing, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did a Soldier's Play. I'm proud that I present Afrocentric work on a Eurocentric stage for the broader community to take it in. Yeah. And I also want to be respected for all parts of me, not just the racial cultural part of me, but I do take I take it serious that if I don't do it, then who? Because there should be way more African American directors on Broadway, way more women on Broadway.
Yeah.
So, but while I'm at the table, then I need to do as much as I can to lift other directors up, support other African Americans' work, and keep, when I get in those rooms, keep fighting to make it possible for us to tell more of our stories on the Great White Way.
That's good. You know what? That leads me to another thing, man, because I know you're a spiritual brother. Do you believe, you know, God orders your steps and he did put you in this position? Has he placed that responsibility upon you? Because it's like you're one of the ones that, you know, that's in there. So what is your connection with God, like Harold Belafonte and the brother walking out the taxi and saying, no, you need to recognize what your calling is. Do you see it in that way, in regards?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think we all have a certain destiny. I think we all have it's like he said, this is the hand I was dealt. I can't throw it back in.
Right.
So the hand I'm dealt, I don't know how I got from Tallahassee, Florida, growing up poor, on Mickasickie Road, and got to Broadway. Yeah. I don't know that. So that had to be divine intervention at some point, a certain responsibility. I have a certain road, you got a certain road, and it's how we walk that road. So yeah, I think I have a responsibility, and I'm very prayerful about that. Like sometimes I get lost, and I'm like, God help me out. What am I doing? What am I supposed to do? This? Hey, I just got offered X amount of money to do this film, and it conflicts with this play.
Yeah,
I want to understand this. Help me out. So there's some times when you're conflict about that, but I think that I feel a spiritual responsibility, a cultural responsibility, a social responsibility, and a worldly responsibility to be the best artist that I can be.
Cool. So then, coming out of this coronavirus pandemic, what's on the future once this is lifted and we go back to some kind of semblance of normalcy, whatever that's going to be, because it's not going to be coming out what it was coming in. There's going to be a new normal for us. But what's on the horizon for you? What do you got planned?
I don't know. I mean, I fought a long time for people not to put me in a box. So it's like, so I always see myself as a storyteller. And I'm going to try to tell stories within the world, the reality of the world that exists. Before the pandemic hit, I was working on, 3 or 4 plays, supposed to go to Broadway. We're going to do a revival of Jar on the Floor. And I love that because it's a generation of 5 women. And I've been looking for an opportunity to be in a room with women after I finished Soldier's Play with all men, to do a play with all women. That will be great, especially after working with Kerry Washington on Americans.
Oh, what happened?
The female voice in the room or in the world. Yeah. So I think my work is going to look a little different. So, and I was working on a revival of Proof for Broadway, and I wanted to diversify the cast of that for that, you know, and do some of that. And, I was supposed to do that's my phone. I was supposed to do
that's real life.
That's real life. Call from unavailable. But Trading Places. The musical. But I wanted to do it for Broadway and flip the Eddie Murphy role to a Black woman. So that it still was a story about these two older white men trying to keep the Black woman out of the boardroom. So to me, in these times of Me Too, Trading Places becomes a different kind of musical now. It's still gonna be funny. So we were getting ready to do a workshop of that, and then I'm set up to do my. Actually, I've done a lot of movies for television, a lot of episodic stuff for television, but I've never done a feature that's at the movie theater. So I'm gonna do something with Paramount Pictures called God's Property. The life and times of I don't even know if I can say that, but anyway, God's Property. And so
don't give it away yet. Yeah.
You know, so all these projects are moving up. Right now, we just don't know when they all will fall based on the new world. But the good thing is that everybody is still actively engaged in their projects. You know, we're just talking about them different, you know, and I've always wanted to find a consistent way to be with young people as well. So I'm going to actually go out to a university in San Diego and have a relationship with San Diego
State. Come on.
There you go. Yeah, so I'm going to be a part of the university system and work with directing students, film students, aid students. So I'm going to do that all year as well. So I plan to continue doing some of the same stuff. But what was always separated me was that I always try to do a fair amount of TV, film, and stage. So I want to do that. I want to be in the room with the students. So I want to pass it on. I want to have something on stage. I want to be behind the camera. So we just got to figure out, you know, how long this is going to go on and what's going to fall away and what's going to stay.
Right. Well, brother, I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for taking this time out of your day to spend it with me on Social D Theater with Hassan El-Amin and friends.
What are you doing next?
Well, you know, when this whole thing hit, I was actually on stage. I was in production of The Crucible. And then in the summer, I was on my way to Westport to do a production of a tiny house, and all of that got shut down. So right now, I'm teaching on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Zoom. You know, I created a course called Black History Live on Stage, where my students are required to research African American history and then retell that history in a performance piece. And that performance can be spoken word, dance, short scene, monologue, whatever they want to create, short little film, but they have to research that moment and turn it into performance. So I'm still doing that. I'm just doing it online. So now I'm requiring my students to continue the research, continue to put their performance together, and we're going to do it webcam. You know, this is the reality we're living in right now. So trying to make reality happen. I'm also doing some social distancing rehearsals since I'm in San Diego with some old school brothers. You know, I got a gospel group called Next Level, and I've written 13 songs for my gospel group. So songs ready to record. So that's what I'm doing, brother. I'm staying active. You know,
I got to get you for one of my. We got to get in the room together or behind the camera or somewhere together soon.
We're going to make it happen, brother. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely, man. Hey, brother, you know I got big love for you, Kenny. Nothing but big love, man.
Peace, man. Appreciate you.
My brother. Thank you. Okay, how do I stop this? There we go.